Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, August 25th, and this week, Dara moonlights as a driver, a mayor vetoes a bill, and Uber raises the minimum wage. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And of course, from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jared. Great to be back.
Likewise, this is an interesting week. Some good news, some bad news, but it seems to be the way it goes. We're going to head into let's go right into Monday here, and this is a new study. Nothing new for us here, but a new study looks at delivery drivers' working conditions, and this is from Business World, and they reported, quote, the conditions of gig workers at a local ride-hailing and delivery platforms have shown no improvement since last year, according to a study highlighting financial insecurity and safety risks due to limited protections. And they really go into detail here. They say, first off, none of the 10 platforms demonstrated fair pay and representation among workers. On fair management, 2 out of the 10 platforms received a point for having formalized processes that allow workers to appeal decisions, I'm assuming such as deactivations. Basically, the end result is the rider or driver being chained to the platform labor for survival, working longer and harder hours to make a living. So this isn't simply drivers or delivery workers saying that, hey, things are tough. This is a study, Bryant, saying it is as bad as we think.
Yeah, this is something that we've known for a long time, and it's kind of devastating to see it in formal writing. But anecdotally, we talk to drivers every day who are telling us how bad it is out there, how the pay is minuscule in comparison to what it used to be, how the safety conditions are just terrible, that they don't feel safe doing deliveries, that they don't feel safe with people in the back of their cars. They don't even feel safe going to some of the neighborhoods where, rides are requested. And not to mention, there's just no support from the companies. I think it's important that studies like this come out because they generate press, they generate publicity, and perhaps we can get the right eyes on this topic, whether that's politicians, the companies themselves, or just the community to take note of what these workers are going through. But like I said, it's not new news. It's just published news at this point.
Yeah, and they even went into something that you had brought up many times before in other podcasts, in interviews, is that, and this is new, and I'm starting to see this more and more, and I think we're going to start to see a lot more focus on this. They really went into something that they call platform-related indebtedness, which is basically getting into debt, in order to have the aspirational process of gaining access to platform work. So things like, lenders, vehicle companies, operators, contractors, all these people that you're throwing money to, like renting a car or renting this or getting this extra feature to do this. And they're actually, now it's not even that they're making a low wage. They're actually going into debt to even try to think that, oh, this will give me the edge. And it's devastating.
It really is. And so many people are just not given the proper information before they get into this space, whether it's taking out a vehicle that, they think is going to generate a lot of income and then it doesn't, going into debt to, put themselves, to buy the tools and equipment that they need to perform this job well, or even just, going in and not having the information that they need about the expenses that they're going to have along the way, the maintenance of the vehicle, the gas costs. It costs a lot of money to be successful in this industry. And the workers just, they need to have access to better information about that before they decide to change their lives and make this their primary source of income.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see they're highlighting it, but as always, we're hoping for a solution here. We're going to head into Tuesday. Uber's CEO reviews his, quote, nightmare while moonlighting as an Uber driver. And Fortune did the story, and they reported the initiative called Project Boomerang internally saw this Uber CEO driving the streets of San Fran on several occasions. When asked his worst nightmare experience, He revealed it wasn't actually involving any passengers. He says, quote, "It was when I was a courier. I was trying to deliver food and couldn't find where to drop it off. Trying to figure out the maze of apartment complexes was a challenge." He then said, "Hey, on the bright side, his work experience has taught him that Uber needs to do more to make its drivers passionate about what they do." What are your thoughts on that, Bryant?
I'm glad to hear that, Dara and the other CEOs and of the other companies do take steps to try to put themselves in the driver's shoes, because I think it's a really important thing to do to gain some perspective as to what the people who are really doing the work and generating the billions of dollars for the company have to go through. I can tell you that when I started Legal Rideshare, I drove for Uber as well. I wanted to get a real sense as to what our clients go through on a daily basis, what the job entails, what are the great parts of the job, what are the bad parts of the job. And, luckily I didn't have any safety issues when I was on the road, but similar to Dara's experience, I found the navigation to be really difficult, really stressful. Communicating with the passenger, trying to have like an upbeat customer service kind of component to what I was doing, along with tracking where I was on the road and where I needed to stop and the next passenger I needed to pick up. There's a lot going on, and it's a much harder job than people give it credit for. So I knew I gained a lot of respect for gig workers, and I hope that experiences like Dara and other CEOs have also facilitate that respect and encourage some better treatment and sympathy.
Oh, totally. And for a fact, he's saying he was struggling with the complexes and it was a maze. If he had kept doing that and messing up those deliveries, his ass would have been deactivated, just like other drivers would have, because he probably was, messing up or putting the orders wrong. And it just goes to show, and that's, we know that's what customers do. They could send complaints, and next thing you know, the delivery driver is deactivated.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a story? I can see that on Business Insider or something about
Right.
Uber CEO deactivated from platform. Upset that he can't get a hold of a real person in the customer service department to help him.
It's almost too good. It almost feels realistic enough to happen.
Yeah, I think maybe next time he goes out, next time anybody gets a package delivered by the Uber CEO, make sure to leave a very honest review.
Get him fired from his own company. Be brilliant. Right. All right, we're going to head off into Wednesday. Instacart's business slows as it heads for IPO. This is from Insider Intelligence, and they added, while Instacart's revenues did rise 30% year over year to about $1.4 billion, its gross transaction volume grew only 5% year over year. So it's now become questionable whether that growth model is sustainable, which is problematic given that Instacart executives may begin their IPO pitches to investors as early as next week. It's saying that they slowed down, but in contrast, it was 10% growth for DoorDash and Uber. So it looks like Instacart, which was the darling of the pandemic, might be in last place at this moment.
Yeah, I think Instacart was obviously, as you just mentioned, a real winner during the pandemic. People were using them for everything. It was the only way that people were getting groceries, as everybody was afraid to go out of their house. But at this point, now that we're out of the pandemic, I would say largely, people are out and about. People are doing their own shopping. They're not spending the extra money to have it delivered. And Instacart's just not diversified like the other companies are. You see that Uber makes money in a many different ways, whether it's rideshare, delivery, courier services, you name it. I don't see Instacart as viable, just because I think most people do their own shopping. Everybody orders delivery food. Everybody needs a ride from point A to point B. Instacart doesn't provide a service that I think enough people use outside of a pandemic environment.
Yeah, at least for myself, this is just me, but yeah, during the pandemic and even the year and a half after, I was using Instacart pretty religiously. I was using it to get all my deliveries. I can't tell you the last time I've used it. Just like you said, it's just easier for me to use an Uber Eats or DoorDash that has more options that I can go. Well, if I need some groceries, I can get it. But if I want food, I'm just already on the app, and it has me. It's just right there. Where Instacart is more like okay, I'm using it for this main purpose, and I no longer need that purpose because I can just go to the store. And I think that is what's happening with the rest of the country.
Right. I think there's absolutely a place for Instacart. It's just the its seat at the big boy table, like it had it during the pandemic. I think that was always inflated. I think that was pandemic driven. And, now that we're in a different place, I just don't know that it's the type of company that demands the same respect and will generate the same sort of income as the other ones that just have a lot more services and products to provide.
Right. We'll see. Maybe they'll adapt. We will see. We're going to head off into Thursday, which is a devastating story. Minneapolis's mayor vetoed what would have been a major win for drivers, and this is from Fortune. And they added, quote, the mayor of Minneapolis on Tuesday vetoed minimum wages for Uber, Lyft, and other ride-hailing drivers, a move one city council member described as inexcusable betrayal of Minneapolis workers. The mayor instead negotiated with Uber, securing an agreement for higher pay for only those drivers. Also, to make note, Lyft drivers are not covered by the mayor's deal. Now, I might sound, this might be dramatic, but how the hell is this democracy? um, and the more you read into it, we would talk about this a lot. It's infuriating. These drivers spent 8 months talking to drivers, city staff, national experts, everyone to craft, to modify, to go up the ranks to get this to that point. And the mayor does a backdoor deal with Uber and vetoes the damn thing.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. I mean, it's just, we see this over and over again that the drivers have so much momentum. They do all this work. They get they have their allies in the local government who they spend their time with explaining the issues. The mayor is not the one who they've been lobbying for the past year or however many months they've been working on this. It's the council members, and they're the ones who understand the importance of this and who have really gone through the numbers and who have heard the stories. And then it goes up to the mayor's desk, and somebody who just hasn't really done the work pulls the rug out from underneath everybody's feet. And it's just it's devastating, and it's unfortunately common. And it's hard to maintain hope when you hear things like this, but you've got to, because things are getting passed in other jurisdictions around the country, and if you keep pushing, something will stick. So I feel for the workers out in Minneapolis, but you got to try to keep your head up and keep the fight going strong.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. They need a break. I hope it happens soon. They just need it. Everyone needs it, but that was rough to see. We're gonna head off into Friday. Uber raises the age to drive in California to 25. This is from AP Business. They reported Uber raised the minimum age requirement for most of its new drivers in California to 25 on Thursday under rules the company said are necessary because of the rising costs of commercial auto insurance in the state. The new rule applies only to drivers signing up to transport passengers with Uber's ride-hailing platform and not for those delivering food with Uber Eats. Previously, people as young as 21 could sign up to drive, and the age limit for deliveries was 19. Brian, actually, you have talked about in the past that the insurance costs are starting to really bite into Uber, and I think this is pretty apparent now.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. It's a cost saving move in their perspective, and it has safety repercussions or benefits, I guess, as well, because it's well known and it's been studied that the older people get, the less risk that they take. The older people get, the fewer accidents they tend to get in. So having an older driver base, I think, just by the statistics means it's a safer driver base. Certainly, we would like to see access to the app to anybody who is qualified and wants to work. But I just think that it's interesting that we're seeing Uber take what turns out to be a safety move because it helps their bottom line. They seem to only be interested in making these decisions towards safety when there's money to save, or lawsuits to stave off. And I just find that interesting. I just when it costs them money, sure, we'll make this safety move. But if it's just for the true safety of people on the platform, Uber's not always rushing to make those decisions.
No, of course not. And I don't know how, if you read the entire article, but they did a nice dig and gave us a nice shout out indirectly. Trash talking law firms. They said, as a result of these lopsided requirements, personal injury attorneys have created a cottage industry which is pushing our costs to more than 65%. So they're screaming and blaming us that is why they're doing this, and we're killing them, apparently.
Yeah, you know what?
65%, Bryant. Their costs have risen because of us.
That we should have an award show or something. It's
Right?
A badge of honor. I feel very honored to be this cottage industry is taking such a hit out of these multi-billion-dollar companies. So we clearly are fighting the fight, and it's not the injury attorney's responsibility to make sure that people are safe on the road. It's the company, and we're just here to hold them accountable. So hopefully they continue to make changes that make everybody safer. I would love there to be zero accidents on the roadway. I would love for nobody to get hurt in these things. And if Uber and Lyft took safety seriously, maybe they could drive us out of business rather than complaining about what we're doing to their bottom line.
Right. It's like they're complaining that it's not fair that we're helping compensate people who are injured. That's not our fault. That's, like you said, if they were safer and these standards were better, then maybe we wouldn't be here.
Right. So this cottage industry is booming because Uber and Lyft aren't safe enough.
Right.
So we'll be around as long as they're not taking safety seriously.
Exactly. All right. Well, before we head off in the weekend, I'll, as usual, give you the floor.
Yeah. So, Friday night, everybody's going to be getting their weekend started. And we just want to remind everyone that as they're moving around, if anything happens, if there's an accident, an injury, we are here to help. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us for a free consultation. If you get involved in an accident, we want to help set you up on solid ground and make sure that you say the right things to the insurance companies, that you do the right things to protect your interests, that you get the treatment that you need, and we will help fight for you to get the cost of treatment recovered, receive your lost wages, pain and suffering, you name it. So please don't hesitate. LegalRideshare.com is the best way to find our contact information. And time is of the essence when these things happen. So get a hold of us right away.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryant. And as I like to say, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.